Right.
Right.
Yes. Okay, it's okay. Welcome back, Gary and Adrian, to another episode of VCTV. So we're going to discuss about accelerators and incubators. This is the first time we have introduced this topic because of the sheer interest from our speakers to include this topic because of the pandemic. As we know, there's a lot of importance when it comes to startups raising funds. I think accelerators and incubators have to play a vital role in that space. So, hence, we decided we cannot exclude them and have an exclusive topic, a session to discuss about their role in the entire ecosystem, building the ecosystem. I'm not saying fundraising, but building an ecosystem that includes all the support that is required to give a startup to nurture and grow and go IPO if needed to, or become a unicorn. So yes, before I start introducing the speakers, let me just introduce myself. My name is Sunny Mohanty. I belong to LATOKEN. I work for them, and based here in Singapore. I have always been based here. Been based here since last 10 years. And I host VCTV Monday to Friday on different topics. I speak. I get the privilege to speak with people like Gary and Adrian on a daily basis. That sort of makes my day. And because of the pandemic, we started this initiative, and it's grown since then. We started in 2020. So great. That's about me. That's about VCTV. Let's just have a quick round of intro about our speakers today. For those who may not know or tuning in for the first time, we'd like your quick round of intro. Adrian, over to you. Welcome back. How are you?
Hello, Sonny. Hello, Gary. I'm actually pretty well in work mode. I'm Edwin Niculescu, serial entrepreneur and investor. I'm involved in a few projects. CloudCoin Consortium. CloudCoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. Faster Capital, a Dubai-based accelerator incubator for startups, which is a very use case for this show. Star Global Ventures, which is a UK-based venture capital firm. I'm also a mentor in Richard Branson's Virgin Startups program in UK, and lately I'm building the incubation and hackathon part in a decentralized autonomous organization called DAO One, and we can talk about it during the show. It's something very new and very interesting for this market and for the topic. Very happy to be part of the VC TV family, and thank you very much for having me today.
Oh, Adrian, good to know that you're part of the DAO team. And yes, we're going to discuss a lot about accelerators in the show today. And yes, welcome back on VCTV. Always, glad to have you on our show. Next, I have Gary Fowler. Hi, Gary. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Oh, good. How are you today?
Great. I always look forward to these sessions, even though I'm not great. I mean, not good. Whenever
I'm not great. I'm not good.
Honestly,
you're excellent.
In the sense, if I'm not feeling like too well. But whenever I think about coming on VCTV, I don't know, something just happens.
Yeah, right. It's like going to a good party on a Friday night.
Yes.
Definitely.
Right. Anyhow, my name is Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software, sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai. I am the co-founder, president, and CEO of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in Santa Clara, California. We work all over the world looking for incredible AI and quantum companies using Silicon Valley as support, Africa, Asia, Latin America, of course, the US, Canada, all over the world. Wherever there's opportunity, we believe intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunity isn't. And our aim is to make the world a little dent in the universe, to make it a better place.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great. So we have the quick round of intro of our speakers. So let's just deep dive into the topic today. So we'd like to know, how are these accelerators adjusting to the new challenges posed to startups in these times? I mean, obviously, because of the pandemic, the whole it's not only the startups that have got affected, or it's the accelerators as well. So how are they adjusting to this new challenge? Let's start with Adrian with this question.
I believe that because most of this space is technological based, it was pretty easy to move everything online, where it's not possible to do things in person, because some accelerators are or were location based, and if you were from the other part of the world, you had to travel. Maybe you sustain yourself for a few months if you wanted to be part of that accelerator. And now things are simpler, I would say. And even when, let's say, things will go back to a new normality, I believe that most of them will remain in a hybrid stage. Some parts or some sessions will be in person. The rest can be pretty well done online. So I believe that it was a boost, because the next big thing can come from really anywhere in the world. Of course, you need to have the good ecosystem. You need to have good mentoring. You need to have relationships, access to resources. But really, the next big thing can come from anywhere in the world.
Right. Thank you so much, Adrian, for sharing those insights for the opening question. Next, we have Gary. So how are these accelerators adjusting to the new challenges?
So through this digital transformation, a year and a half ago, people were primarily doing them in person with the acceleration, whether it's 500 startups, Y Combinator, plug and play. But at times have significantly changed over the last year. So as we've moved through this digital transformation, remember McKinsey said 93% of the companies were looking at digital transformation over the next 10 years. Well, what happened is when you weren't able to be in person, you had to think differently. And part of thinking differently is about acceleration. It doesn't matter where, who, or what kind of company you have. It only matters whether or not you can connect with the right kind of resources, just like we are here on VCTV. The right kind of resources give you guidance to be able to go global. So it's the beauty about on one side, that COVID has been horrible for a lot of people and a lot of families. On the other side, it's really accelerated this idea of being able to cross border, to educate, cross border to develop companies, and really to be able to go global in a whole different way than we did before. I can see that in Africa. We work in Ghana, Zambia, South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. We see that there. We see it all over Asia. It's really leveled the playing field. So they've adapted by going virtual. I mean, what's the difference whether or not you're online, if as long as you're getting the right kind of content and the right kind of connections? It's been a little different because as a human being, we like close personal contact to be able to get to know people, so we can use our senses, right, and touch and all kinds of different things to understand who you're with, etc. But those times have changed, and the good news is people have stepped up. The good news is companies are moving forward, and they haven't let the COVID really hold them back. So they've had to adapt or die.
Absolutely, adapt or die. I just want to address something here. Okay, our viewers, we are obviously reading your comments. It's just that we are live on the show, and probably we can't answer you as fast as you would like us to. But just to let you know that we are actually going through your comments, and thanks for your loving comments. We appreciate those coming through. Just wanted to add that. Thank you. So, talking about accelerators. So, what are the expectations of investors from these accelerators, and how can they help make access to funds easier? And what can make access to fund easy? So, what are the expectations? Hello, what are the expectations of investors from accelerators, and what can make the access to fund easy? Adrian?
I believe that investors want an easier access to the next big thing, because everybody wants to have as many successful investments possible. One thing I'm looking is not necessarily related to that, but in the venture capital world, we are usually talking about equity.
Yeah.
But if we are looking at the tokens and coins, sometimes, and the barrier between the coins, tokens, and equity is thinner and thinner. And any investor wants, I believe, or I saw that, an easier access to their best future investments. And accelerators are facilitators to that. They arrange the startups, the project in a certain framework. They offer some initial resources and basically prepare them to be funded properly and potentially towards the next stage. Of course, there are different models with accelerators and incubators. I can speak a little bit about what we intend to do in DAO 1, which could be a very interesting use case. The thing is that those early stage startups, those future companies, those teams, they are the blood for the fresh blood for the future of economies, which is built today. That's why is very, very important to help as much possible this space. And I I said that before. VCTV is as value has even a bigger value than an MBA. If you follow the speakers, if you look at the resources, you can learn so much, so many things which are applicable today. But of course, instead of binging on movies, you need to stay here to spend time, to invest your time, and after that,
Right.
to look further. When Gary says, "Okay, I'm publishing on Medium this," go to read that on Medium, and you will be able to enter his mind and to learn fabulous things. It's exactly what I'm doing from time to time, and it's very valuable, I would say. So these are, from my point of view, the expectations of investors: an easier route to the next best investments.
Right. Thank you, Adrian, that VCTV is actually giving you that platform where you can learn and get into Gary's head.
I can't even get into Gary's head.
By reading his articles. Yes, actually, you're right, about right.
Well, what's left?
All righty. Great. So again, Gary, the same question to you, because you founded companies, you are part of 3 accelerators, you also you invested yourself, you work with investors. So what are the expectations of investors from these accelerators, and what can make access to fund easy for the startups?
Well, startups, one of the challenges with startups is that they need guidance, because a lot of times they're first-time entrepreneurs. They haven't done it before. They don't understand the trials and tribulations. You need really a support group. Sonny, it's not easy doing a startup, right? There's always twists and turns and pivots. And so having that support is really important. The other thing is in terms of how do you build a company, customer development, going out before you build a product or service, making sure that that's something that the environment wants, that customers want to pay for. So in terms of staging, financing, what is a Series A, Series B, Series D, C, D? How do you get seed funding? Who should you talk to? How much is it? What are they looking for? These are basic questions. And these aren't kind of things, you don't learn this kind of stuff in business school, right?
Yeah.
With the first MBA program was at Harvard University. It taught managers how to manage, not how to be entrepreneurs. In fact, it's actually different because you're not supposed to take risk. So The accelerators, what are the investors looking for? They're looking to be able to, I mean, this is keep it simple, stupid. If they invest, they want to make money. It's
Right.
like, this is not rocket science.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure they can maximize their investment, and they have a team in place that's able to do that. So the first thing is the team. Then the situation is with the investors, the key is having investors that can open the doors for you and help you. You know, the investors that I've had with my companies have been very supportive and given us guidance, because sometimes when you're inside of a company, you forget you're so enclosed, you forget the outside world, and you think, you know, what you believe is right, and many times you need those opinions. So
Right.
anyhow, they're just looking to maximize their investment. It's pretty simple, and move as fast as they can and make sure that it's the right team to get the job done.
Yes, absolutely. So these are very vital points as well for startups who are watching us today. Very crucial, to have an accelerator partnership. So my next question is, again, as we all know, like historically as well, the accelerators have obviously helped build ecosystems, right? So we would like to know a bit about how they help build an ecosystem in terms of corporate technology partnerships, uh, academia partnerships, access to funds, access to services, including IP, HR, etc. So if you can just summarize how they help in all these spheres, that would be easy. That's the good information for our viewers as well. Adrian?
Ecosystem is everything, and if you I want to use an example, because we always learn from examples, or can learn from examples. Let's look at the banks.
Yeah.
Some of the banks, what they are doing, they are saying, okay, we are the best, we are not interested in crypto, we are not interested in fintech. Other banks, they are creating accelerators, they are creating incubators to find the next fintech projects, the next crypto projects, which could help them to advance from the classical banking to what the people want today, like the I don't know, platforms to manage their finance better, bridges between banking and crypto, and so on. The same approach, because I wanted to also to use this as an example, is with incubators and the hackathons with DAO1. DAO1 is an ecosystem, is
Right.
a really decentralized autonomous organization, and being a technological hub, it's created in a certain way right now, but it needs to evolve over time. And the best way to do that is to attract from all over the world teams, startups, and ideas with potential products and services which could help DAO1 become a better platform, and also to be potentially funded by the members of the community, or even if there is, I don't know, a potentially next big thing which is not applicable to DAO1 as a whole, to be funded, to be helped with mentorship, with resources, even with technological resources from partners, to become a standalone company. And so many cloud companies, marketing companies, they want to be part of these accelerators and give for free cloud space or marketing memberships, because these startups will test their tools, will show them the bugs, will potentially become long-term clients, will help the adoption, and so on. And it's like a movement which becomes something very addictive, you know. As you said, it's like being in this show becomes something like addictive, something like, okay, if you are down today, okay, I'm going in 1 hour on VCTV. I have to freshen myself up to be there and to contribute, and after that it will be okay for the rest of the day. It's something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rightly said at the end, Adrian, besides others, the points that you touched
So
upon.
this is like a therapy session.
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. It's a therapy session. Come on.
Seriously, this is not the
Good
first
one.
time we're hearing this. I mean, everybody like Gary obviously has said this before, Vandana and many other people. I think we should rebrand it to something else.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yes, offline. We can
About your
brainstorm.
childhood?
That's a good one. Yes. Right. Great. We have a laugh as well on VCTV. So yes, therapy, information, and many other things, collaborations happening. So yes, that's just one platform doing everything. Great. Gary, again, same question to you. How these accelerators are helping building an ecosystem starting from IP, HR, access to funds, academia, access to services, you know.
Yeah, I can tell you directly. I mean, how I've done it and what happened. So we started the first accelerator in Russia, so Skokova Startup Academy, and there were a couple people in our e-club when we got started. I mean a couple, 5 or 6, and within a year we had 2,500 at the largest event that we had, almost 2,500 exactly, 24 and change, and it was amazing to see what happened in terms of the results because again. There's no, if you look at building a startup, it's really practical. How do you meet with this investor? How do you get those contacts? Where are those contacts? And personal introductions. But it's like so finance is important. Connections are important. What is funding? As I said, how to be able to meet with those folks using Silicon Valley as an access. We would take trips with the companies over to Silicon Valley for 2 weeks, and I'd have people like Guy Kawasaki, Bob Dorfman, Steve Blank, the whole lean startup folks, friends, meet with them. And now imagine having superstars there to be able to talk to them directly and talk about what's happening in the Valley, having dinner at Stanford University, and just being part of the ecosystem. And that's what it's all about. It's about the connection. And most people don't realize it's, doing a startup is like being in a small club.
Yeah.
And it's not what you think because, VCs like us here have thousands of people giving proposals all the time. And sorting through those proposals, if you have somebody recommend a company, you're much more likely to listen to it and take a look at it. So, and the other thing is credibility. You need to, what are they looking for? They're looking for people that have been successful because if you're going to win the Formula One, if you want to bet on a car, you want to look for a driver that's run a race. So getting to get the chance to drive is one thing. Then once you're in the driver's seat, continuing it and, keep winning. So that's part of it. It's about building an ecosystem. It's not one thing. It's about building the ecosystem. And it's really important because, as I said, is therapy even doing a startup? Because there's ups and downs and the ins and outs. And you got to pivot all the time.
Yes.
And you got to test. You got to do customer development. Startups, make sure you test. You go out. What I do is I take and I'll interview people. I have my iPhone there. I show them the PowerPoint presentation, mock-ups of whatever it is, and get their opinion. Are people willing to take money and spend money on your product or service? So it's important to do that. The idea for accelerators, so there's a couple of different things. One is accelerators, but the other things that are venture studios, which is like the next level of acceleration. So accelerators teach you the basic concepts. It's a lot about education, a lot about small amount of money, $100,000, $120,000, 150. They put in some very small pre-seed funding to be able to help using the connections that they have. But then the next level is really the venture studio model, which is where you take active operational roles in those companies. It's a little bit different. So using your credibility and bringing it into those companies to be able to help them grow, to be able to use your contact network. So it's important that you find the right company so that they do have the right product, because you can't have a dud. You can't have one that's, wrong. It'll screw up your credibility wherever you are. So you need to make sure you're nurturing that company. Typical venture studios, that's really the new model going forward, because, it's one thing to accelerate a company, but what do you do next? Let's say you're in Singapore and you've got regional dominance in Singapore. What do you do next? How do you go global? Right. You want to go to Latin America. How do you do it? So having that network of people. We look at the model as intergenerational, culturally diverse, and regionally decentralized, because you want to have your development team where you can get the most bang for the buck. You want to make sure diverse teams, dramatic. You want to have women. You want to have people of color. You want to have people that have intergenerational, people with a gray hair, because they have the contacts. And if they got the credibility, it makes a whole lot easier, especially today with the digital transformation. Here we are online. So if I want to raise money and I'm in Singapore or I'm in Europe, and I want to raise money in Silicon Valley or Israel, unless you have those contacts, it's really hard. Yes, they'll listen, and they always say yes, by the way. Most of the time, they never say no, because they want to keep you on the string, so that at some point in time, if you're a hot company, they can invest in it, and you're not going to be offended.
Right. So Gary, understood correctly, the venture studios actually sit between VCs and accelerators. Are they like bridging a gap, or between?
They're bridging. It depends on what kind of. They're bridging a gap, because it's the next stage is going global. Public speaking, Sonny. I mean, a lot of times you have technical founders, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but they haven't just gone out in front of thousands of people and talk, like a Steve Jobs, and get in front of people and talk about their product or service and compel them, enchant them, and make it interesting. They're just not marketing. Not some are, but in general, they're not. And it takes time to be able to build up those skill sets. And the thing is going, it's like Peter Pan. The crocodile was time. You've got a window of opportunity. You better move very, very quickly. So it may take you a few years to get those skill sets. It's better to get people that already have them, that have the credibility build up. That's where Venture Studio comes in. Venture Studios are really, it's a new model, but it's really, I'm regionally successful. How do I go global? How do I set up an office in Silicon Valley? And I don't mean just set it up for $200. I mean actually set it up so you can get funded. So Delaware Corporation, office in the Valley, in terms of all the legal requirements, in terms of liability insurance, you do get sued, you need D&O insurance, just the simple kind of things. You got employment rules. You can't just pay people cash. You got rules around employment. Each state is different in the U.S. and each country is different. You got to make sure you're complying with their laws. Work visas. If you're in Russia, you need a special abilities permit. In the U.S., we also have those kind of visas. What kind of visa do you need? How can you transfer people over to the company? Those kind of things. But you got to think about those in advance. The problem is many startups say, "Oh, I'm going to file Delaware Corporation," or they don't file patents, right? They don't file provisional patents, so they have something that somebody else may own. So how can you build a company without what is your intellectual capital? What are your assets? And they don't do it. They don't think about it. But these are the kind of things. It's not just about that. It's about a real 360-degree view. That's where Venture Studio comes in. Venture Studio is like, you got a beautiful car, but now you got to get it detailed and get it ready to go if you want to take it out to the auction. And that's where Venture Studio. So, tuning up the engine, what changing the tires, as a metaphor, just making it right so it's ready to go. And most companies don't think about it, and that's where they fail.
Interesting, very interesting points coming out of this session, especially Gary. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, I think Gary touched upon inclusion and diversity. So I just want to ask Adrian, what are accelerators' role in inclusion and diversity in innovation, in bringing innovation to startups?
Every accelerator and incubator has its own rules regarding what kind of startups they want there. And with the pandemic, the barrier became lower than it was before, because you don't have, in most cases, the travel costs you had before, and you don't have the accommodation costs you had before. So it's easier, even for startups from underprivileged territories, to join accelerators and incubators. And if we are looking at the tech side, we see more and more people coming from this territory saying that, okay, I'm a blockchain developer and I'm self-taught. You can you can become a very good programmer. You can become a very good technical person if you follow videos on YouTube and if you analyze code on GitHub. Of course, until a certain level. But you need to make the effort and to take the learning curve. You need to get the limits out of your head. And because you mentioned therapy,
Yeah.
Sometimes in entrepreneurship, and it happened to me, still happens today, you don't see tomorrow, and you need to be part of the ecosystem which will help you to see that tomorrow, because if you don't see tomorrow, you can take very bad decisions, and there are so many entrepreneurs who are taking a very bad route in such moments. And it's very important, even to help um, um, vulnerable, valuable people, to get them into such ecosystems and to help them not only to see tomorrow, but to see the day after tomorrow and the light at the end of the dark tunnel. Because sometimes entrepreneurship is a dark tunnel, especially when you are building something new, when you are doing things which were never done before, or when you are in a dark space, you don't have resources, you lack money, you have I don't know, people hunting you for debts, or who knows which other problems you might have. And being brought to such an ecosystem where things are friendly, it helps you to have a different vision of the world, a different vision of what entrepreneurship really is, and to give you some resources to transform that vision into a fundable and into a sellable project at the end of the day. It's
Right.
very important for the inclusion. Very, very important.
Absolutely. Great points there, Adrian. Thank you so much. Again, Gary, same question: inclusion and diversity in innovation, and the role of.
Yeah, I mean, it's critically important. In fact, I had we have on our board, uh, maybe some of your viewers know the NAACP, which is a top black group in the United States, and Martin Luther King founded it. We actually have one of the board members of the NAACP, a good friend of mine, Lamel McMorris, is on our board, and we've really pushed female entrepreneurs, and been inclusive, because it's the way. It's proven that having a diverse team really dramatically impacts the success of the company. So it's and it's not about entitlement; it's about doing the right thing, Sonny.
Yeah.
So as I said, we do a lot of work in Africa. It's about how do you help. On one side, it's not about entitlement; it's about finding incredible companies. There's incredible talent all over Africa, all over Asia,
Yeah.
all over the world. But you got to go out and mine that talent, and most people don't take the time to do it. When I went to Russia the first time, people said, "Well, why would you be going to Russia? It's a scary place." This was back in the 2000s. I mean, you got to be a different kind of person to want to do it. But, think about all the science talent, all the technical talent that's out there to be able to really help. So it's mining it. On one side, you're doing the right thing. On the other side, there's great opportunities that nobody else is going after. And that's where the opportunity is. So this is the greatest time. Companies that are out there. I did a TED talk about the passion, optimism, and visualization, TEDx, a few years ago. You can check it out. And I've written several articles in Forbes about venture studios and going global. It's important. Each one of you, what you got to do is you got to get off sitting on your hands. You got to visualize where you want to go, and you got to go do it. It's not easy. For sure. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's funny because you see the success of people like Stuart Butterfield, Slack. So I had a deep conversation with him at Stanford a couple of years ago. And I asked him directly, I said, how did you come up with Slack? And he said, because I failed. We were a gaming company and it wasn't the right kind of situation. I had to lay off a lot of my employees, like 30 some employees. I had to lay off when we had this internal project tool, Slack, right? And this what became Slack. And so I said, well, geez, here's something to sell. I had another company. I don't remember what it was, Twitter or Instagram, but they were selling Cheerios. They would relabel them. They put like Obama O's, and they were relabeling just to generate money for the company. I forget exactly which one, but people only think about the successes. They don't think about the journey to get there. Elon Musk, right? This was back in early 2000s. They said Elon Musk was crazy because he put all his money that he had made in PayPal and threw it in Tesla, SpaceX. They said the guy's going crazy. Now he's a genius.
Yes.
I mean, and if he could say anything and people would do it.
He's taking it to Mars. Yes.
I mean, but he seriously wants to go to Mars, right? And so you got these great opportunities. Look at Starlink connecting the world, Neuralink, because we're going to have singularity. The guy's a genius, and he's impacted all facets of our life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gary, for sharing those really powerful words with us and our viewers. I mean, I feel really excited to listen to all these insights coming from this panel today. Again, very important. How does a startup choose the right accelerator? Adrian?
With everything a company, an entrepreneur is doing, there has to be an ideal profile. You have an ideal customer profile. You design, okay, which is my ideal customer? You have an ideal investor profile. What kind of investors do I want? And because there are so many accelerators and incubators, you need to design the ideal profile of the accelerator and incubator you want to be part of, because there are hundreds, and you could send hundreds of applications which will be copy paste and will not make any noise, or you could go targeted to 5 or 10 to study what they are doing, to make the kind of pitch to them or the introduction which will become memorable for them. Because if you know your ideal the ideal profile of the accelerator or incubator you want to join, you will learn a lot about that profile, and you will be noticed, and maybe it will be easier to join, because there are no universal solutions for everybody. So depending on your needs, depending on your goals, depending on your vision, make a target, create an ideal profile for the things you want to join, and fight to join there. It's so simple, but it's pretty complicated to execute. In theory, it's very simple. Execution makes the difference. Yeah.
So it's a simple thing, but execution is complicated, right? So again, Gary, same question. How does a startup choose the right accelerator as a partnership?
Well, I mean, you got to look at, so for instance, if you're in space, there Techstars has a space accelerator. Really look at one that really caters. Find somebody in that accelerator that has the same kind of domain expertise that you have, that has been successful in that particular vertical market, that particular technology. I mean, go there. The other thing is, what do they have to offer? Do they have education? Are they investors? Do they have a good contact network, et cetera? So, I mean, part of it's doing your own due diligence. It's not about blindly getting in. It's about really finding one that's going to help you. It's, on the other side of it, there's a lot of online resources, just like VCTV, to give you ideas and direction to be able to help you. And so you, as an entrepreneur, I always say it's incumbent upon yourselves to be able to create your own destiny, to be able to forge your future, to paint where you want to paint pictures of where you want to go and manifest it. And I don't mean this in a soft way. I mean, this is just how it is. You got to visualize where you want to go with it. And as I said, pivots. Remember, startups, pivots are not a situation that's bad. It's not like making some cultures, if you have a challenge and you pivot, it's looked as a bad thing. Oh, I don't know. But look at it as like making a U-turn, right? When you're driving down the road, you make the wrong turn, you do a U-turn and you go in the other direction. That's okay. So that's it. And a lot of times when you're doing pivots, I know with my company, Eva, we had to pivot 3 times. And we were Google-like search for the personal cloud. Well, of course, Google gives things for free, right? Supposedly, right? People didn't want to pay. Then we did a task assistant. people didn't want to pay because companies like Google again were giving things for free. In reality, no, because they get advertising dollars, etc. We pivoted to HR and HR tech, and it worked. So you got to try it. And the other thing is, make sure that when you're building your team, when you're getting investment, that you find people that are knowledgeable in your particular vertical market or product to be able to help you, to get ideas. Your venture capital groups, your investors, it's not about the money. It's about having another part of your team that give you guidance. They're like senior advisors. The really good ones really care and really want to help you because they want their investment to go up. And
Right.
so it's critically important you find the right kind of folks. And, startups, AI is the new electricity. Data is around us. Do not, yesterday I was talking to a company that's talking about gathering data, but it's not about gathering data. It's about what do we do with the data and how do we be able to incorporate that to make our product or service better? How do we take that to be able to make better decisions? How do we use semi-supervised and unsupervised AI to be able to help with things like supply chain, right? And these are the kind of challenges that are in front of us. These are the kind of challenges that we have to take care of. Data collection is important. Data analysis is important. But what do we do with that data, and how can we use unsupervised AI to really help guide that product or service? That's what we're looking at. And it's going to impact each and every one of us in all kinds of different ways. So I would focus on how to be able to take the data, whatever technology or service you have, and to be able to manipulate that and use it in a positive way, use that to be able to make some better decisions.
Absolutely. Great points there, Gary, again, about choosing the right partner, especially when you are early stage as well. Great. So we cannot not talk about government. So what is the role in this scenario, and are there policy changes you're going to expect from the government when it comes to the entire ecosystem of startups, accelerators? So what's their role? And yeah, it will.
Okay.
In the middle of April, something interesting happened regarding the startups ecosystem in Romania. One
Right.
company, which I'm talking about, UiPath, which was born in 2005 in a small apartment in Bucharest, and in 2015 they were like 10 people. They succeeded in few years to become listed at the
Public.
New York Stock Exchange,
Yeah.
and become the hottest listing of a European startup in 2021. And one guy on Facebook looked at the social media posts of the most important people in the government, and only few of them after 2-3 days said something about that. And look at Dubai, for example, where the government is saying, okay, we need to attract here the best people, the best startups, knowing that, okay, Romania is in Eastern Europe, but it has one of the fastest internet networks.
Right.
So for a technological startup, you have office buildings, you have a lot of facilities, you have great new infrastructure. So you have a lot of things, but the interest for the government, unfortunately, is still pretty low. So the governments, they have funds, they have resources, they have buildings, they have campuses which could be used, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's something which hurts a little bit if you go with a plane from Tarom, for example. Tarom is the national carrier in Romania, and after that you go with a plane from Turkish Airlines. There is a huge difference, like from Earth to Moon, and it's exactly. I don't say about Etihad or other airlines. Just a comparison, or even if you go to the airport in Bucharest and to the airport in Istanbul, and you see the governments care about the infrastructure, and after that you can see the governments care about the startup ecosystem, which could produce, of course, UiPath is no longer a Romanian company, but still few hundred employees are in Bucharest. Many of them became millionaires due to this listing, and some of the money actually will be spent in Romania. They have tax residence in Romania, so they will pay a lot of taxes from the sale of the shares in Romania. So you just need to think that many other companies could follow the same route, not necessarily until that point, but if you put the seeds now, if you make some investment as a state, because as a government, you have those resources, sooner or later, the return on investment will be huge. But of course, you need to have the right mindset, and you need to have like a state framework for that. And unfortunately, because I'm talking about Romania, this doesn't happen, or it happens, but at a very, very low stage. Maybe things will be better in the future, who knows? But it's just what I'm seeing, so I'm not inventing anything.
So
Maybe somebody will hear and will. Of course, I don't want to critique anybody, because it's very easy to critique other people's work. Just saying that this could be improved. So this is the angle I'm using all the time, because I respect all the authorities, just that they need to have a focus here, because from this space will evolve the companies which will change the world, right?
So, Adrian, yes, it's a big news. I've also seen it went public, but I didn't get into details like where was it born in the first place. So good to know that was born out of Romania in a small building of 10 people, and it's
Yes.
yeah, good to know. But so are you trying to say that suggest that there was no government's role to play in their success?
Actually, they played against the limitations imposed by the system. They didn't have any deal with the state, and as far as I know, they didn't have any facility besides, I believe, there are some deductions for the taxes on salaries for the people in IT in Romania, which are generally for all people in the IT industry. But apart from that,
Right.
I didn't think they have any other support.
Okay, good to know. Thank you so much, Adrian, for sharing that use case as well. Gary, over to you.
Yeah, so one of the roles of government is to basically not put the roadblocks up. So if you disincentivize, increase taxes, make it so it's not friendly, startup friendly, that's one thing. But you really got to nurture the environment, like Singapore's done.
Yeah.
With the startup community. So you got to nurture it. You got to be open to it. I mean, think about it. You're creating a lot more high value jobs. Think about UiPath. Think about Twitter, Facebook, Google. I mean, here we are, Apple. I mean, they've created jobs all over the world. So it's about job creation, about the opportunity, but you got to plant the seed, and not all those seeds are going to turn out to be companies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 1 out of 10, but in reality, from my opinion, if you do a great job in nurturing those companies, it's probably 3 out of 10 or 4 out of 10 if they got a good idea that can succeed. So don't put the roadblocks up. Be very positive. Create an ecosystem. Universities in California, Stanford University. One of the reasons Silicon Valley, because you got Stanford University with some of the brightest people from all over the world coming in. They go to the engineering school, computer science school, business school, and they stay because the climate's nice. I mean, it's pretty simple. This is not rocket science. Yeah. It's warm and nice, and there's a beach, and you can go skiing. You can go skiing in the morning, and you can go at the beach at nighttime, or vice versa. So that's some of the beauty, and people forget about it. Weather is really important. Yes. So where are you going to go? So if you're in a very cold climate, you may want to have a different kind of environment. The other thing is open to ideas. People share ideas. The reason startups are successful is because they share ideas. They have events like VCTV, entrepreneurs clubs, different get-togethers, Eventbrites, where they get together and share ideas. And it's really important because somebody may give you that little nugget, that little piece that'll help you define who your company is and what you want to become. So it's about creating that community spirit. You can do it online for sure, and now some countries, some places like Silicon Valley are coming out of the pandemic. You're starting to see it pick back up again, where people want to get together, they want to share ideas and dreams. They want to be in front of those folks at those get-togethers. So the good news is, that the opportunities are out there. The startups, you got to focus on them. You got to go out there, stay positive, and go get them. Look at where the technology that you have fits in. Make sure that you take care of all the parts of your technology. It's not just about coming up with an idea. It's about protecting the idea. It's not just about thinking about customers. It's about getting out of the door and getting those first customers as a founder and talking to them. Don't overburden your company with too many resources on inside of your company. You need salespeople, you need a vice president of sales and marketing, et cetera. That's how you go out of business. You start jacking your costs up too much. Go do it yourself. Go out and get the initial business in to make sure it works. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that's a bad thing. Figure out how to pivot to make it work. Do the right thing, and don't get nervous. Sit on your hands, focus, have your therapy sessions, just like VCTV.
Absolutely.
I think you have like a startup circle. Go around and tell me how you're feeling today. How is that? How's your data doing today?
Thank you. Great project. Only forward. Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, viewers are supporting us. Adrian, I hope you enjoyed your therapy session today.
Yes, of course, all the time.
Okay, we have to wrap up the show a little early because we have something coming up. Quick closing remarks before let's take some closing remarks before we wrap up the show. Adrian, over to you with your closing remarks, please.
My closing remarks: always focus on your strengths and find other people to complement your weaknesses, because we are not perfect. We are human beings, and if you are focusing on your weaknesses, you will fail like crazy. So assess yourself, find your best spots, your genius zones, and find other people to which are powerful where you are weak, and things will work. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you, Adrian. Again, it's about balancing and having a right fit in the team. Thank you so much, Adrian. Gary, over to you, please.
Yeah, this is a great time. There's a great opportunity. We're inundated with such data that we need companies that can go out and help us not only get the data, but to analyze the data and make decisions on it, whether it's in supply chain, medical, drug testing, drug discovery, space. I mean, just across the board, it's a phenomenal opportunity. Stay positive, stay focused, go up there and get them. Make sure that you're sharing your ideas. Make sure you do customer development. Go out and test your product or service to make sure people want to buy it. As I said, what I'll do is I'll take an iPhone or my phone, I'll put it on a stand, I'll record what the interview's like, and I'll use that with my product folks to make sure that we make the product better. Go interview 50 people. Go out and see if they really want to buy your product or service before you spend too much money developing it. Build some mock-ups. It's a great time. Stay positive. My name's Gary Fowler. You can reach me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Love to hear from you. And believe in your dreams, because you believe in those dreams. It's called the Pygmalion effect. They come true.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary, for your words. And again, Adrian, thank you for your insights as well. Great panel today, both of you. Really loved it, enjoyed it. And we had a lot of engaging viewers as well, like who were obviously engaged with us for the session. So I'll be back tomorrow on another topic with another set of speakers. Till then, be safe, happy, as Gary says, and let's